Good morning from my sister's garage in beautiful Peoria, Illinois. I hope last week was all right. Didn't get a whole lot of emails from you, so I'm kind of hoping that everything is cool, everything is groovy, that the week was successful. Sorry, I haven't gotten to the discussion boards yet, but I should be able to do that. Well, hopefully, maybe even this afternoon as we drive back to Orange City. If not, then tomorrow and Wednesday will be grading days. So you'll hear back from me soon. Anyway, today for this morning's little video, I wanted to share a couple of things with you. As far as last week's assignments, a couple of things that I've noticed. Number one, many of you are using lots and lots and lots of quotes, which as an English teacher, I kind of love to see. That is typical for MLA format, but it is not typical for APA format. In fact, I was scolded somewhat severely the first couple of times that I was writing papers for my doc class because I was so used to MLA format. In MLA format, it's typical to write, well, I mean, people say that the average is about 2.5 quotes per page, which averages out to about one quote per paragraph. That in MLA format, every paragraph needs a piece of very, very, very specific evidence. APA format evidence, specific evidence looks very, very different. So please, I thank you for all of the quotes, but they're not necessary. References are much, much more important than quoting the resources that you're going to be using in APA format. So for APA, go ahead and reference. Draw specific connections between different resources. Prove to me, and whoever's going to be reading your final case studies or your final papers, that you understand those different things, but you don't necessarily have to quote in order to do that. And now, hello from my sister's backyard. Our three kids and their three kids all ended up going to play in the driveway. They might end up playing in the backyard as well. But anyway, I may move around a little bit. So as far as quoting goes, feel free to quote. But please use them very, very sporadically. One every 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pages, something like that is more than enough when it comes to APA format. If you do quote, please remember that you still need page numbers. That's going to be that's important in pretty much any format, whether that's Turabian or Chicago or MLA or APA or whatever else. Citations. Some of you have been placing some DOIs or trying to place DOIs, which is great. A DOI is just a digital object identifier, is what DOI stands for. And it typically is a pathway that lets a reader know kind of where to find things. So you can actually search for articles through DOI. The DOIs can be listed as either a number and, well, it's a sequence that typically has numbers and letters in it, and maybe some funky punctuation. But you can also list a DOI as a website, and that happens occasionally, especially sometimes it's only listed as a website, so feel free to do that. As far as the other resources, when you are listing a website, make sure that that website is a location instead of just a search protocol. Several of you had websites listed as just like a search protocol, which is basically copying and pasting the search from the search bar. That doesn't necessarily work with APA. So there should be another way, a better way to do that. I'm going to actually put my references pages for my dissertation as a PDF onto Blackboard, so you can take a look at how I organize some of that information. I have a couple of other things that I'm placing up there as well. One of which is a list of questions. The questions that I'm going to be putting up there that I asked of my students, or asked of the students and the colleagues that I worked with in Liberia, I did not ask specifically the first bulleted point. Those were just my guiding questions, my directing questions, and then all of the sub questions that came underneath, those are questions that I asked explicitly verbatim, kind of word for word. They're the questions that I gave to the students and to the teachers beforehand, so they had an idea of what kind of questions I was going to be asking. But those questions are nested under bigger, more philosophical, integrative questions, the most important questions for my research that I really wanted to answer. So that's going to be up there as well. I mentioned to several of you in your last kind of more formal, I think it was 3.3, that in the future for similar assignments, I'd really love to see you using headings. Some of you are already using headings and subheadings. I love that. Headings are great in APA. It took me a while as an MLA guy to get used to them, but I think they're absolutely wonderful in order to help the reader understand your organization. To keep you more organized, to keep me more organized. And the other nice thing is it can be a way of leading your reader through the research in the way that you want them to read that research, which can be really, really beneficial. So take a look at a couple of sample papers, like the Purdue OWL sample paper, and how they use headings. First level headings, second level headings, third level headings. You probably won't need to go further than that. I didn't. I think third level headings is about as far as I went in my dissertation. So the next thing, two more things. There's a serendipity, I think, in finding resources that several of you, I think, have already caught on to. That once you find an article, that once you find a really good article that you really want to use, and it just kind of hits all the clicks all the boxes, that take a look at the resources section for that article, and you may end up finding a lot more stuff. Go onto Google Scholar and find out who's used that article for their own research. You might find a lot more stuff. But just like any rabbit hole, like, YouTube at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's easy to get kind of, deviate from the original intention. Maybe I'm the only one who has that happen to them. But do realize that sometimes you can find some really, really cool stuff. For example, I found one book that was really, really beneficial to me about qualitative inquiry, about qualitative asking kind of interview questions that I found really, really good. And then looking that book up on Google Scholar and who has cited that book, I found all kinds of resources that were really, really beneficial to my research. Finally, when it comes to creating an instrument or finding an instrument, that's kind of one of the things that you're going to be doing for this next week. Chelsea last week asked a question about, to what extent, how much can I use? What happens if I find a protocol that I like? Is it okay to use that protocol? Absolutely, it's okay to use that protocol. That's wonderful. Finding a valid measurement tool or a valid measurement instrument is really beneficial to you as a researcher because, number one, you already have evidence that it works. Number two, it's a lot less work to try to come up with your own thing. There are ancillary benefits of using somebody else's tool because there might be a lot of people who've used that same tool or that same protocol or that same instrument, and there could be overlap. And that's to me, that shows some wonderful critical thinking, and to most researchers, that shows wonderful critical thinking. So if you can find an instrument, by all means, use somebody else's instrument. Just make sure you give credit where credit is due and make adjustments as necessary and explain what you're adjusting, why you're adjusting it, that sort of thing. But I'm also going to, that's part of that PDF that I'm going to throw onto Blackboard as well, is my instrument. So if you like some of the questions that I used, go ahead and use them. My questions were pretty specific, so I kind of made my own instrument. So anyway, that's kind of the week. If you have questions, again, please let me know. Shoot me an email. I think you all have my my cell phone number as well. You can text me. and I'm fine with that. And we will talk to you soon. But in the meantime, good luck, Godspeed. I hope this week is great for you. Blessings.